Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk About It, bringing you topics from near and far. I'm your host, Addison Levi, and thank you so much for tuning in. We are back with another roundtable discussion, still focusing on data centers in Prince George's County, but now with a new response from the Data Center Task Force. To this day, our upcoming guests are still fighting for a middle ground to keep these data centers away from our neighborhoods. We will discuss the updates on the behalf of the Data Center Task Force and other concerns our Prince George's County homeowners have. Stay tuned as we return shortly with our returning guests and a new guest panel to discuss what our community leaders have been doing to stop centers from entering our neighborhoods. And thanks for joining us, and welcome to Let's Talk About It, bringing guests and topics from near and far. Our returning guests today are Ms. Stacey Hartwell, a member of the Qualified Data Center Task Force, Dr. Khalil Shahid, a senior strategist, environmental equity, green finance, and economic development associate, Dr. Noah Waters, the former mayor of Eagle Harbor, Maryland, Mr. Herb Jones, president of Tantalian North Area Civic Association, and our new guest, Mr. Tolson Banner, the executive director of the Prince George's County Community Development Corporation. Welcome, and thanks again for joining. Mr. Banner, thanks for joining in on this important conversation.
Glad to be here.
We're going to begin with the first question, which is actually for you, Mr. Jones. What did the task force say about the electric and water rates? And then what is their impact on our residents?
Well, at this point, after I reviewed the task force report and talked to several individuals, there was no real discussion about rates. There was no dialogue with the provider, the entity that determined the rates, the Public Service Commission. There was a invitation, is my understanding, extended to the Public Service Commission, but no one from the Public Service Commission was able to brief the task force on ways to minimize the impact of rate increases as it relates to data center energy demand. So the report is silent on that piece from my perspective in terms of what to do to minimize the impact of rate increases to residential customers, water and electric, with respect to data center energy demand and infrastructure.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Banner, are there any alternatives to hyperscale data centers? And if so, can you please give us some examples?
Well, I've always maintained that we were asking ourselves the wrong question. We have a series of maladies in the county, and we believe that the data center is the cure-all. We believe that it's going to be the cash cow to address all our ills, and it's not. I think the real question is, how can the data center stimulate economic activity so that we can address all the ills simultaneously? The ills of the maladies of healthcare, the ills of joblessness, the ills of food desert, the ills of renewable energy, the ills of daycare center deserts, and the ills of the daycare center itself. And what we have here is something that has been going on in existence for about a year and a half now. You look at District 9. District 9 put on a charrette about a year and a half ago to take a look at the land use and brought in all the community. What came out of that was something called the Medical Innovative District. And what it did, it recognized that retail could no longer be the anchors in economic development. So what would be the anchors now? The anchors would be healthcare and food. So when you take those anchors, they are created out of inelastic demand. What does that mean? It means that no matter what the economy is doing, these two things will stabilize the economic activity within that district. Now you can build around that for a multiplier effect. With the multiplier effect, you can bring in the last mile data center. What is that? That's a smaller 5,000 foot data center made out of shipping containers. You have your digital infrastructure there. You have your digital ecosystem economy there that will be the intelligence for the medical facility, for the grocery store, for the farmers who need somewhere to bring their produce to market, for the daycare center, for extending and creating vertical integration with trade. We have more Black farmers in the state of Maryland than any other state in the country. And we do not trade with anyone in the world. And Baltimore is right down the Beltway. So it's not making sense. So I'm saying that the data center can be a stimulus to create these medical innovative districts. And the feedback on those was so great that the planning board is proceeding with the market feasibility study on the medical innovative district. So we have something in place. We have a model already there. All we need to do is put the right projects, the right kinds of businesses there, and we can reduce the $180 million deficit. We can create jobs, much more long-term jobs. We can address the healthcare maladies. We can create jobs from the food, create a market for the farmers, deal with the daycare center deserts. The new chair of the county council spoke about that just last week about daycare centers. We can address these, but in a much more comprehensive fashion.
I think that was a very great, very long answer, so I appreciate that so much. Ms. Hartwell, has the data center task force examined any possible negative impacts on water and electric rates as a result of data center constructions?
Hi, it's good to see you again, Addison. The task force did look at zoning and basic siting questions, but it did not conduct a full analysis of impacts on water use and discharge, electric rates, diesel emissions, noise, or light pollution. Those solutions really require environmental health and utility experts, and that expertise was not part of our group. The administration has also included a report from the SAGE Consulting Group in the final materials, but task force members did not have the opportunity to review it before the vote. I voted no, and 2 members abstained for that reason, while others who supported data center expansion voted yes. This is why, many of us are encouraging the county to conduct deeper independent studies moving forward. And your question really underscores how important community participation is in strengthening transparency and improving decision-making for future projects.
Thank you. And then for Dr. Waters, is the Gensler report a credible analysis of the collected data, or is it a high-tech marketing report that's used to promote data centers in Prince George's County?
So the Gensler report is not an academically credible report. Anyone who has studied data analysis and the methodology, the report, it's on film of the Gensler report going around to tables asking about benefits. That creates bias. Bias in data analysis takes away all credibility. If they were in a class and a professor was conducting that class, they would tell them to trash it and start over because the data, the analysis is corrupt. And then I am a former mayor of District 9, and for the suggestion for people to decide that they want to put a data center in District 9, that is offensive to me. The data centers bring no value. There is a much better program. There is CR 038 2025, which expanded the entire county as a heritage area. Heritage tourism is a faster, less impactful. It will make the farmer in southern Prince George's County happen. It will make the urbanite, no matter of ethnicity, if you're white, African American, Native American, Hispanic, Asian, or whatever, it can create pride, what I call pride in place. So the idea of people pointing down to District 9 and deciding that somebody on the county council or some staff member has some type of wizardry or some type of knowledge to put a data center in District 9. They are very much misinformed. It is not the place for a data center. It would ruin historic Black town of Eagle Harbor, which has endured environmental racism since 1964. Systemically, they put a power plant here, and it would be insult to injury, especially from a predominantly African-American county council to do that. It would be confusing, and it would be such an insult. So I ask people to stop volunteering District 9 for a data center. That is offensive. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Shahid, did you have something to add to anything that was said previously?
Thank you, Addison. Sure. Just a couple of things. One, on how can or alternatives to the hyperscale data center. I fully agree with the previous comments on that. But what I would add is, yes, we don't need hyperscale data centers. One, because of the size, the risk, and the environmental impact, but also when these tech companies build a hyperscale data center, the compute capacity inside that data center is 100% devoted for one purpose, and that's just for the training of general artificial intelligence. So we, community, our government, local businesses, entrepreneurs, artists, we have no access or ability to use that compute for our own purposes. So it provides nothing in terms of economic development. It doesn't offer us any way to access the digital economy. So it is really just a big box like storage facility, with few workers, with few real economic benefits, and few real opportunities for economic integration into the surrounding community. And there are many, many ways that we can, build smaller data centers that are actually producing tools that our county could use to help improve county services, schools, hospitals, that can use that do not require an 820 megawatt data center. But and then just the last thing I'll say on the report, the report doesn't really offer many conclusions or many real solutions, to any of the issues or the categories that it covers. So I think, at best, we can look at this report as an opening conversation. It is not a policy. It is not an ordinance. And so the work for us is to continue to really hone in on some of those questions, to really get our county council to understand what it can and should do in relationship to zoning, what it can and should do in relationship to power and energy costs, what it can and should do in relationship to water, because this report provides none of those answers. And so there's nothing from this report that they can actually take and make a policy for Prince George's County. And so that work is still ahead for us. And so we should take this as an opening and kind of set the table, and it set the issues, but it offered no answers. And so we still have to come back and force that work to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question before we take a short break. So now circling back to you, Mr. Jones, currently data centers can be located in residential zones, and so, or can they be located in residential zones? And what do you recommend could be done as far as that issue?
Thank you for that question, Addison. This has been a concern of my association as well as the South County Environmental Justice Coalition's group from the beginning. Right now, permitted by right, data centers can be located in 11 distinct zones within Prince George's County. 11. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but the one that jumps out to me, of course, is residential homeowners. The data center report talks about a 300-foot buffer that they believe will be the protective buffer for a location of a data center in a residential community. And that is totally unacceptable to my association and myself as president of that association, as well as the South County Environmental Justice Coalition. That buffer, if in fact we go forward with, as we look at these hyperscale data centers, is nothing. And it's very scary to know that the county by right has 11 zones which this data center a data center, a hyperscale data center can be located into, and that's unacceptable. My association and South County Environmental Justice Coalition is going to push back on that. Other jurisdictions are looking at buffers a mile and a half, at least, based on the noise, the lighting, and other environmental concerns.
I'd like to add also that the buffer of 1 mile is so far, it's so far been proven that that is what's required at a minimum to avoid the issues around diesel emissions, the CO2 emissions. And then the next thing is also the water discharge that these data centers use. That water, I mean, that it comes from, watersheds that we get our drinking water from, and it can have, great health impacts that extend throughout the Chesapeake watershed.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hartwell. We're going to take a short break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more. Welcome back as we continue to discuss the impact of our quality data centers in our communities. First, I want to start off with you, Mr. Banner. Is the data center opposition just NIMBY, not in my backyard?
It's about more than that. It's about a comprehensive approach for community economic development that have a wide range of benefits for the majority of people who live here. Many people think it's just about NIMBY. They think that the opposition is just saying, not in my backyard. No, the opposition is saying this is a grand moment where we can use the blueprint of the 2035 plan to create a comprehensive, sustainable, livable, walkable communities, medical innovative districts to address our ills in our community, more than just NIMBY.
Thank you. Our next question actually goes to Dr. Waters. What actions are the MGA, the Maryland General Assembly, what are they taking in regards to these data centers?
Well, of course, the Maryland General Assembly is paying attention to this national conversation, a lot of it emanating from Prince George's County about data centers. I think it's definitive that the people have spoken, people standing in the rain, people banging on tables, let us speak, this, so forth and so on. The Maryland General Assembly, but needs to step in on the residents paying for electricities for data centers. So the approval for those types of things always land at the feet of elected officials. So the excuse that they don't have the power to do something about it, Annapolis can do better. Annapolis needs to step up. The Maryland General Assembly can do and is expected to do what is needed. Prince George's County, the citizens have spoken, please to step up and represent, all Marylanders, to include Prince Georgians, because this is a hot issue. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually have some friends who are going to be paging at the MGA later in January, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Moving on to Mr. Jones, what are other states doing legislatively to protect their ratepayers?
Well, let me start off a couple of things very quickly. We talked about the role of the Public Service Commission, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, but there's another entity that plays a key role in all of this. It's called the PJM, which are the regional transmission operators that determine the price and the cost of demand for electric power. The states that have enacted legislation to protect residential customers from infrastructure costs and costs associated with demand from data centers are within that PJM. Now, I'm just going to go down the list very quickly of those states that have enacted legislation to protect consumers from what we call ratepayer shock. Florida, California, Georgia, New Jersey, North Carolina, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Utah, Missouri, New York, in Virginia. So the question comes to bear, and this is where our legislators come in play. What is Maryland doing as a state to consider bills that will protect ratepayers from increased demand by any data centers that are going up, not only within Maryland, but within the PJM's service territory that serves Maryland? And ratepayers will be impacted by any states that have hyperscale data centers within that PJM territory. An example of that would be Virginia. Virginia is within the PJM territory. Virginia is the hub of over 280 data centers. So some could say that to a certain degree, the residents in Maryland currently are subsidizing the costs associated with the infrastructure and electricity demand in Virginia within the PJM territory, which Maryland is a part of. So my hope is that moving forward, the state can enact legislation that will make sure consumers are protected from the rate increases from both electric and water rates.
Thank you. And while we're actually on the economic topic, Mr. Banner, how can data centers help stimulate overall community economic development for Prince George's County?
Well, data centers can be the stimulus because you're talking about not the hyperscale data center. You're really talking about the last mile data center. It's smaller. It's made out of a shipping container, and it's an AI lab clinic where you can train kids and you can train the local workforce in AI. You have your digital infrastructure there. So you're starting to see the trend towards last mile data centers because they don't need 4.1 million square feet. They don't need 820 megawatts. They need about 50 megawatts and they need about 5,000 square feet. So you can use this as a moment in time to create the ecosystem that will address most of our ills in this community. It's a grand opportunity, and I hope we don't miss the window.
Thank you. Ms. Hartwell, I actually want to get your take on the economic side or the economic aspect of data centers. So given Prince George's County forecasts a budget deficit, what viable alternative to data centers can like bring in money or like create jobs and like help put the county like back in the black?
All right, given the budget shortfall, we don't have to rely solely on data centers. As a matter of fact, we really don't need them to balance the books. The county already unanimously, as it was mentioned earlier, approved CR 038-2025, establishing support for the Anacostia Trails Heritage Area. This is a heritage, recreation, and tourism initiative that can drive jobs, small business development, and sustainable revenue. Tourism is already a major economic engine in Maryland. In 2022, the state's visitor economy generated over, what was it, like $4 billion? It was in the billions, and it supported nearly 187,000 jobs statewide. So in places like Prince George's County, investing in heritage, recreation, and tourism through this initiative, the Anacostia Trails Heritage Area Initiative, can raise revenue, create local jobs, foster community pride without risking water, utility stress, emissions, or other climate and environmental harms. It is a faster, cleaner, people-friendly route to economic growth that many residents already support. That pathway promises growth and equity, environmental stewardship, and economic resilience.
So we have time for one last question, which I actually want to ask all of you because I want to hear different perspectives from everyone. What can local residents do to protect their communities from data centers? So we'll start with you, Dr. Sheed.
As I said in my previous comments, the report from the Data Center Task Force is not an ordinance, it's not a legislation. We should take that as an opening to to this conversation. But we as residents, we still have the opportunity to weigh in on this issue. We have to push both at the county level and at the state level to get legislation passed that creates the type of guardrails that we need to protect our communities and to guide the development of data centers should the state choose to do that in ways that are going to be beneficial to us and to reduce any harms and risk to our communities. Unfortunately, we had an opportunity, but Governor Moore vetoed the data center study bill, which was SB 116, HB 270, which would have given the state the opportunity to study the energy and environment, water impacts of data centers to understand, what the property taxes and revenue versus jobs, of data centers in Maryland would have been. I think it's due for us to put legislation like that back on the table, because he vetoed that, saying that it would cost too much money. But Prince George's County is one of the most educated populations in America. We have universities all across this great county. We have a lot of resources here that the mayor, that the governor, could turn to help, to do this study. And so, we need that opportunity to be able to weigh in much more formally, and to make sure that these guardrails are put in place legislatively at the state level and also through ordinance at the county level.
Thank you. Mr. Banner, if you would like to give a short answer on what local residents can do.
This democracy is slipping through our fingers unless we stay engaged, advocate, protest, hold our elected officials accountable, and stay organized and raise your voices as loud as you can, because this democracy is slipping right through our fingers.
Thank you. Dr. Waters?
So, yes, I would tell residents, Prince Georgians, to look forward to the report card of county council members, the candidates, and those who will be running again on the county council who will be against data centers in Prince George's County. Vote for those candidates. Look for that report card. That is the leverage. Vote for candidates against hyperscale data centers in Prince George's County.
Thank you. Mr. Jones?
Sure. Good evening again. I think the county residents have an opportunity to use that leverage that Dr. Waters talked about. In 2026, we have some major elections, et cetera. This is the opportunity. Residents, we don't get this opportunity often, okay? So we have to use the one stick, the one carrot that we have, and it's holding your officials accountable. And we have a window that we're not going to have again in terms of this upcoming election. Who's running? We have the county exec that is still running. This is the opportunity. This is the squeeze point to have them maybe consider enacting legislation that I talked about, like the other 15 states have, to protect consumers from rate increases regarding electric and water rates. So we have to use our political might as a collective at this point and look at results and not a lot of dialogue and discussion amongst our leaders.
Thank you. And then lastly, Ms. Hartwell.
Thanks again, Addison. Over 21,000 people have signed our survey in opposition to hyperscale data centers. It is among the largest outpourings of community opposition and concerns, I think perhaps in the history of the County Council. Community residents have shown up in force and in person. At one event, we had over 400 people. I think in total, we've had over 500 people show up. Residents can protect their communities by showing up, asking tough questions, demanding real data on water, energy, and emissions. And it is important, as my colleagues have said this evening, to tell your elected officials you want independent experts involved and stronger zoning and environmental protections. Data centers move fastest when communities stay quiet. So the most powerful tool you have is your voice. When residents speak up, it changes the outcome every time. Your vote is your power.
Thank you guys so much for coming forward about this discussion. It's a very important topic. We appreciate all of your effort in keeping our community safe in all aspects. You are truly our community heroes. I look forward to seeing you all again soon and wishing you the best in your future endeavors. Thank you to everyone who has helped us make this show possible. Let's Talk About It is here to communicate, educate, motivate, uplift, and inspire the world. I'm Addison, and I'll see you next time.